Today we're taking a look at the brand new Lumix GH7. Now, in case you missed it, Lumix just announced at Cinegear the brand new Lumix GH7. And honestly, I think these updates make the GH7 just a beast of a camera. Now, quick disclaimer, I do want to say that Lumix did send the GH7 for me to test out, but as always, they're not requiring I say anything specifically and really didn't even ask us to do a review of the camera. But as always, I am going to do a review of the camera. So with that, we're going to break down the 8 standout features for me that make the Lumix GH7 just a beast of a camera. And so let's start off with the first reason, which is ProRes RAW. I don't know what deal with the devil Lumix made, but they were able to put ProRes RAW into the GH7. Now, that doesn't mean that it comes at the sacrifice of really good codecs that aren't RAW codecs. You actually have all of your normal recording options with All-I, you have 4K 120, even up to 300 frames per second in 1080p, and the high-speed 1080p 240 option actually is able to record in 10-bit All-I, which is just crazy. Now, if you weren't already impressed enough with ProRes RAW, there's a couple of other reasons, specifically 7, because I said 8 reasons. We're moving on. So the next reason why I think the GH7 is a beast of a camera is phase detect autofocus. Honestly, I can't tell you how close I was to purchasing the GH6 last year, and the only thing that kept me from purchasing the GH6 was with Lumix doing phase detect autofocus. I felt like it was only a matter of time before they put phase detect in the GH lineup, and the GH7 is that camera. And so you're gonna have really good, fast, reliable autofocus equipped with all the tracking features that you come to expect with the G9 Mark II and other Lumix cameras that you're using phase detect autofocus. And so the phase detect autofocus is another reason why the GH7 is just baller status. And I regret saying that immediately. The next standout feature for me is updated IBIS. Now, Lumix is well known for their IBIS. They have industry-leading IBIS. And with the G9 Mark II, we were able to see really good electronic stabilization mixed with the IBIS of the camera to get some crazy steady handheld footage. Beyond that, the next thing I'll mention is the implementation of real-time LUT. Now, this is something that we saw first with the S5 II and S5 IIX, and really it has taken shape in a whole nother form with the S9. And I'm happy to say that coming from the S9, the GH7 is actually adopting all of the real-time LUT features of the S9. And this means that you'll have the ability to stack LUT in certain color profiles, as well as being able to change the opacity of your LUTs and store up to 39 LUTs. And so all these things are things that we saw with the S9, and the GH7 is kind of picking up that same feature with real-time LUT support. Not to mention, while we're on the subject of colors and baked-in colors, you do have Leica monochrome. If you're unfamiliar, Leica monochrome is actually developed by Leica. This is not like some makeshift Leica monochrome or black and white profile that's similar to something Leica developed. This is actually developed by Leica for Lumix cameras. And so having Leica monochrome in the GH7 is one of my favorite things, and honestly is not even its own point. It's kind of baked into this real-time LUT conversation, but I do love the fact that Leica monochrome is in this camera. That brings me to the next standout feature, which is going to be overall connectivity. We saw with the Lumix S9, the Lumix Lab implementation and the connectivity between the camera and the Lumix Lab app to easily sync photos and video to the application so that you can share them. Well, I'm happy to say that the GH7 is already able to pair with Lumix Lab to transfer photos and video so that you can easily post them to social media. But on top of that, over the last year, we saw the implementation of Frame.io with the S5 II and S5 IIX, and that is something that is also coming to the GH7. So Frame.io and Lumix Lab integration are both coming to the GH7. So the next reason that I really like the GH7, a standout feature for me, is going to be 32-bit float audio. You heard me correct. Lumix is implementing 32-bit float audio with the GH7, and there is some specifics around that because it does have to include their new XLR adapter, which you're able to record raw video and now basically raw audio. So I can see this being a game changer for documentary filmmakers. So with that, the next standout feature is the body design of the GH7. Now, I do wish that they had a little bit more of an updated body, but they basically took the same body of the GH6 and did a lot of internal upgrades. And so I do like the fact that they kept that form factor. You have the things like the flip up screen, which does have the full articulation as well. You also have full-size HDMI, you have USB-C, you have all the things that we loved about the GH6, even the size, kind of that heftiness to it, but now with updated everything kind of internal, which leads me to the last and final point, and that is price. With this camera, recording raw video, basically raw audio, giving you phase detect autofocus, giving you just this powerhouse of a camera, the price point, $21.99. That is insane. You're getting a flagship micro four thirds camera for $21.99. And you could say it's still micro four thirds, absolutely. But for all of that, $21.99 is absolutely insane. And so for that is my last kind of standout feature, is just how they priced this camera. That being said, a couple of the negatives. Right now, I do have a pre-production model. And so when you are recording in RAW, I have noticed that you're not able to use your preview LUT. And so that was kind of a downside for me. Now, again, this is a pre-production model, so I don't know if that in production, they're gonna have the preview LUT option. The next downside is going to be no X-Pan in your photo mode, which I haven't even mentioned. It's a killer photo camera, by the way, but you don't have an X-Pan option. I was unaware when I started doing some of my projects that the Micro Four Thirds series don't have the X-Pan aspect ratio, and ultimately you can do that stuff in post, but I do like using X-Pan on my S9 or S5 2X. The next downside for me is no dual native ISO. And so that's kind of a downside for me. I really wish they had dual native ISO with this camera. And so those are some of the downsides for the GH7 in my opinion. But let's wrap this up with talking about who I think this camera is for. Honestly, if you're a Micro Four Thirds user, you have Micro Four Thirds glass, and you are looking for your new flagship camera, I would say this is absolutely the one to look at. If you're a documentary filmmaker and you need to be more run and gun, more nimble, have amazing IBIS, autofocus, great colors, amazing raw capabilities, then I would also say that is a group of people that should check out this camera. And so if either one of those criteria match what you're looking for in a camera, then I would absolutely recommend the new Lumix GH7. And so that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like. And if you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comments below or reach out to me on Instagram and we can start a conversation there. As always, thank you for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Peace and action.
Batman, it's a bat and a man. Psst. Batman will get you if you do anything wrong. Done.
Okay.